It must have been 1988 or 1989. I remember getting my finger smashed in a doorway and it hurt a lot. I was obviously upset. I was crying. My mom wanted to cheer me up. She said, hey, we're going to go to the store. You can pick out a toy. So think about what toy you want to get. And in my head, I knew I needed Winston. He was the one Ghostbuster that I still needed to add to my collection. So we went to a store called Wynn's in my hometown in Texas. It's a store that closed a very long time ago. I think there might have been a couple locations there, and I don't know that chain exists anywhere. But we go in, and there on the shelf, of course, is Winston. So I was really happy, despite my injury, to be adding Winston to my personal toy collection back then. And it may have been that same year, it may have been the year before. I don't quite remember, but I distinctly remember waking up on Christmas morning to the Real Ghostbusters Proton Pack set that came with the backpack. It came with the Neutrino wand, with the foam insert that you could put in for the zapping ray. It came with the PKE meter. It was such an awesome set. In terms of role play for that line, that was the ultimate thing you could get. I mean, they had all kinds of stuff. They had things that shot out foam darts. They had projectors, all kinds of stuff. But that Proton Pack set was like the epitome of, what you could get to actually be a Ghostbuster at that time. And to this day, I still have that Proton Pack, which is pretty cool. In the most recent episode of Cantina Chatter, we were talking about retro and how these companies try to market us things that we already once owned, things that harken back to our more innocent days before we had any semblance of what life was really going to be like. And they've been capitalizing off of that nostalgia for a long time now. And it's crazy that in the year 2020, the toys that people like me and other people I know get the most excited about are the ones that we already owned 30 years ago when we were kids. It's not the fancy hot toys. It's not the highly detailed Bandai figure. No, these Real Ghostbusters retro figures have been surpassed in every way possible by more modern toys in terms of engineering, in terms of likenesses, detail, and authenticity. Yet they are the thing that I was most excited about being released this year. So I think that really says a lot. We remember the happiness, we remember the simpler times, we remember the way we felt when we owned those toys, we remember our families, we remember just those early years. And I think that's what really makes these special. Welcome to Victoria's Cantina, where today we're going back to the very, very beginning. Now, the Real Ghostbusters was kind of the franchise that started off my lifelong fascination and passion for toys and collectibles. Growing up, we had tons of toys in the house. We had Batman, we had Ninja Turtles, there were Power Rangers, Swamp Thing, Jurassic Park, Star Wars, so on and so forth. But if there was one line that started it all, if there was one thing that I liked watching on the television before anything else that also had accompanying toys, it was the Real Ghostbusters. So these are particularly a treat for me all this time later, and they're especially exciting for me to share on the channel because it's kind of like going home. It's kind of like going full circle. We're going back to the beginning, to the genesis of my toy collecting habits. So I'm happy to look at these, and I hope you're happy to see them too. As far as the actual release, this has been a really interesting thing, the way that Walmart has handled it. I know I've spoken about it on social media and on the podcast. The whole thing is a little bit strange. Basically, these went up for pre-order back in February through Walmart, where they are exclusives, and they started hitting retail in April. Stay Puft and the Green Ghost, aka Slimer, started shipping out to those pre-orders shortly thereafter, but the actual Ghostbusters themselves did not. And then recently, it was revealed that the Ghostbusters themselves, actually all of the characters, all 6 of the figures, had brand new links that you could use to purchase them, and they'd ship right away. Even though the pre-orders were not shipping, if you use these new links, those figures would ship out right away. So I tried them out. Sure enough, they shipped out the next day, and they arrived. Unfortunately, with Slimer and Stay Puft, they increased the price by $5. So instead of all of these figures being about $15, now those two at least are $20. Now, I'm not sure how much of this information is accurate. It sounds like it probably is, but it does come a little bit secondhand, so I'm not sure where the information originated or where it came from, but my understanding is the reasoning that these figures did receive new links with new UPCs and other slight modifications to the packaging is that apparently Hasbro did not secure the rights to use the phrase "who you gonna call" on the packaging. So even though Slimer and Stay Puft got released with the phrase on the box, the actual Ghostbusters they were able to hold back and release once they had removed that from the box, but they had to change the UPC, and they did that for all 6 of the figures. They all have brand new UPCs, and I'm not sure why Walmart didn't fulfill those pre-orders first with these updated cards. I guess internally it had something to do with those UPCs, but it does seem like those will eventually get fulfilled, and it looks like some of them you can pre-order once again using those original links. So the whole thing is really weird. It's quite messy, but whenever Walmart's involved, that kind of seems to be the case. So not really all that surprising there. What is surprising though is how faithfully these figures seem to be recreated from those vintage days. I've never owned these carded except for Stay Puft, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but I've never owned these real Ghostbusters. Like I never went back and sought them out. When I was a kid, they never stayed in the boxes for more than a few minutes, obviously. So it's awesome to have these. They look fantastic. I hope that a company like Figure Shield or one of those third-party companies comes in and makes like a clamshell, because these need to be preserved. I bought 2 sets. That way I could have a set to open and a set to keep packaged. And I mean, you kind of got to. You really, really got to. So let's talk about that packaging. All right, so starting off here with the 4 Ghostbusters figures, you can see that the packaging is pretty similar across the board for these 4. The bubbles are pretty similar in terms of the layout, in terms of where everything is located. Basically, you get the Ghostbuster figure, you get the accessories, which include the proton pack and the neutrino wand, and then a pack-in ghost. Now, as I recall, that was one of the coolest things about the Ghostbusters toy line was that you always got these really nifty little ghosts, and sometimes they came packed in with figures. As you see right here, sometimes they came separately in multi-packs, or of course they had all kinds of really cool crazy ghosts that never even appeared in the show. So it was such a diverse line, it was such a well-rounded line, and it had some of the best playability that has ever been done with a toy line. Looking at the packaging, you can see that they start off with this darker blue color on top that transitions into this gradient that gets you into this more purple color on bottom. You get the real Ghostbusters logo, ages 4+, and it tells you the name of the character as well as the ghost that they come with. You get the little phrase, "I ain't afraid no ghost" on there. And then it tells you on the bottom that you get the action zapping ray with neutrino blaster and proton pack accessories. And of course, we get the timeless Kenner logo at the bottom. I really like the art on each of the cards showing the Ghostbusters. Very cartoony looking, more cartoony than they even appeared in the cartoon itself. And you see them blasting the various ghosts that they come with, zapping them in the colors of their proton streams, which is really fun. Like I said, just looking at these, this is a dose of nostalgia unlike any I've had in a really long time. I love it. At the very back, each of these is the same card back images. You get that really classic photo there, and that is the original photo of the Ghostbusters alongside the ghosts that they come packed with. You also see Slimer and the Green Ghost, and then you see a demonstration of how to use the accessories. Not only do you get the Kenner logo, but you also get the Hasbro logo. And you do get a description of each of the different characters. So like right here, Peter Venkman and Grabber Ghost, the fast-talking natural leader of the group who wants to become a national ghost hunting hero. Race Dancer Rapper Ghost, the energetic enthusiast who can't get enough of blasting ghosts. Egon Spengler and Gulper Ghost, the absent-minded electronic genius who is responsible for the group's zany ghost-chasing equipment. And then Winston Zedmore with Chomper Ghost, the practical, common-sense member of the group who tries to keep the real Ghostbusters from getting completely out of hand. Of course, we see Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, the largest and wildest of all ghosts. He represents the real Ghostbusters' biggest challenge. And then the Green Ghost, the hungriest of all ghosts. He is now on the side of the real Ghostbusters. No pizza or donut is safe when he's around. Ain't that the truth? And then here's our demonstration. Neutrino blaster snaps onto side of proton pack for storage. Press peg on proton pack into hole in body of action figure. Note backpack must be in upright position as shown. Slide neutrino blaster onto right arm as shown. And twist handle on neutrino blaster for action zapping ray. Really cool. Right here it gives us the 2020 year, so brand new. And these are great. These are just super, super great. There is a lot here that can potentially get damaged during shipping. Like you can see, they're not perfect. Mine came in with a little bit of damage. And like I said, I did get 2 sets of all 6 figures. So, they're not perfect. I do have some issues with them, but just look at all the angles, all the corners. I mean, there's plenty of room for there to be some damage. These are pretty big hardbacks, so it's going to be impossible probably to get them perfect. But that's always been the case with toys. I doubt if you went back in time, you'd be able to find perfect ones either. Back in the 1980s when these were on the shelves, man, the nostalgia. I can remember it just like it was yesterday, kind of, sort of. Here we have the Green Ghost figure and accessories. Now, of course, we all know this is Slimer, but back in the Kenner days, originally this was just the Green Ghost. Thinking back to when I was a kid, I honestly don't remember if I had Slimer or not. I know I had the 4 Ghostbusters, but I had so many of these, and I was really small at the time, so I can't remember all of the toys I may have had from this toy line. But I know I had a ton of them, and I can tell you specific ones that I definitely had. With Slimer, honestly, I don't quite remember. So either way, it's great to have him now. Packaging is really cool. It's kind of like the Ghostbusters. You can see that Slimer also has a graphic, and he's basically there eating his pizza. This one does have the Who You Gonna Call logo, which has been removed from more recent samples of the figure. I love how you can see all of his accessories, his watermelon, his pizza, his steak, I think that is. At the back, it's essentially the same thing that you see with the 4 Ghostbusters, except once again, you do get the Who You Gonna Call phrase up there at the top. Now, of all these figures, the one that I was the most excited about, without a doubt, was the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And I'll tell you why. Back during the Kenner days, when I had tons of these Ghostbusters figures, I never had the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Why? I really don't know. For such an important character in the Ghostbusters franchise, you would think that it would be something I would have had, but unfortunately, I simply did not. I do remember going to the stores and looking at these figures and not seeing him, so it's possible he was just a very popular figure. I remember going places as a kid and seeing other kids like playing with him, so I know they were out there. I never had one, and it just seems like a huge oversight, or I don't know, maybe my family just never found him, but I did remedy that in 2016. I'll tell you about that in just a bit, but first let's talk about the packaging here. Like Slimer, like the other Ghostbusters, you get that beautiful classic Kenner purple, blue color backdrop. Really nice image of Stay Puft about to slam his hand down on a couple of the Ghostbusters on that skyscraper there. And you do get the Who You Gonna Call on this sample. And then you can see the figure in there looking absolutely beautiful. Once again, the back is the same as those other figures. And you also get the Who You Gonna Call phrase at the very top. Now, this is the figure that I just showed you. This is the newer one that is shipping from Walmart.com. So this is the one that's now priced at $20. I don't know if that's an oversight or why they did that. But you can see that there are 3 differences here. The first being that the Who You Gonna Call phrase is missing from the newer one. The Ages 4+ logos have also been altered. The newer batch version here, that's the way that Hasbro has been doing the 4+ thing lately. And then the third, and in my opinion, the most annoying difference is the fact that the later version has a paper insert. I cannot stand that because when you move the figure, it bounces around. It's obviously quite ugly. I wish that they would have packed it behind the figure rather than there just alongside it, if they had to pack it in at all. Star Wars Black Series and the Vintage Collection also come with that paper insert, but it is pretty well concealed in Vintage Collection. It just sits at the very bottom of the bubble, and in Black Series, you don't see it at all because it's inside the box. Other than that, this sample is beautiful. That's going to be my carded sample. I wish I would have gone a beautiful carded sample with the Who You Gonna Call and, without that paper insert, but Unfortunately, that's just the way it played out. I tried my best to get a carded sample from Walmart.com that was perfect, and this is the one that ended up being perfect, the one that had the new updates to the packaging. Now, if you look at the back, you will see more differences. So on the newer version over here, you will see that they omitted the whole thing about the neutrino blasters, which is fine. Obviously, Slimer and Stay Puft don't come with those accessories, not a big deal. But they also got rid of all the character descriptions, which I find a little bit disappointing. Those are fun, and that always, growing up, added a whole lot to the toy when you knew a little bit about the character, a little bit about what you were getting with the figure. You will also see that they added all the other languages on the newer version. It just looks a little messier. I can understand why they needed to do it, but I'm a lot more partial to the more classic look of the original batches of these Slimer and Stay Puft figures. All right, now what is going on here? Can any of you guys tell me what is going on here in this shot? Well, if you guessed that one of these figures was from 1986 and the other one is from 2020, then you guessed correctly. Which one is which? This one right here is actually the Kenner original figure on card. It is freaking beautiful, and you can see how faithfully Hasbro recreated that packaging in 2020. Now, the original one, you can see the card back's a bit faded. The figure is a little bit more off-white, and it just looks a little bit slightly different in terms of the sculpt. Very slightly. It looks maybe even a teensy bit smaller. It also has the who you gonna call phrase, which is awesome, but you can see that the ages 4 thing is a little bit different. And you can see that the bubble actually sits a little bit farther to the left side of the card than the newer one, which is more centered on the card. So as I noted a moment ago, I finally remedied the fact that I didn't have this figure back in the 80s by procuring it in 2016. So I actually got that guy on eBay. I think I paid around $80 for him, which was fantastic considering that earlier this year, this figure on card was selling on eBay for between $300 to $400. So I pretty much got a deal on it when you consider that. But now that Hasbro is doing their own retro collection, I've noticed that prices on some of these older figures have dropped a little bit. But now that I have this, I don't know that I need to keep that anymore. It was remedying the fact that I didn't have it as a kid, and I always really wanted it. Was always kind of disappointed I never had it. But I feel like now I can let it go. I may be open to letting it go to a really good home for the right price. So shoot me a message on social media or whatever if you're interested in that. Now looking here at the back, you can see that they are very similar. Once again, the pictures there of the 4 Ghostbusters characters are the same. It's the same photo. The photos of the Stay Puft and the Green Ghost are the same. You also get the character descriptions, which is awesome. But then you also have something that's really cool on the back of the 1986 version there on bottom. The big difference here is that on the back, you can see that they're also showing you one of the coolest accessories, role-play toys that came in the Real Ghostbusters line, which was the Real Ghostbusters' Ghost Zapper. So you can enter the world of the Real Ghostbusters. The Ghost Zapper is a unique light and sound toy that lets you project scary, ghostly images and then zap them. So this was kind of like one of those Viewmasters, those little red binoculars that had the little discs with the different pictures on them that you would look through. It had something like that. I don't remember if you pressed a button or had to turn it manually, but when you turned it, you could see an image of a different ghost on the wall. And then it had another button that you would press that would make like a sound so that you could zap it. It was a really fun thing, and all the ghosts that were shown in there were really cool looking. All right, you guys, in part 2 of our look at the Kenner, the Real Ghostbusters Retro Series, we will unbox each and every one of these figures, and I am super excited about that because it is going to be a blast from the past. So please stay tuned for that. In the meantime, let me know your thoughts down below. Have you added these to your collection? What has your experience been like? Be sure to follow Victoria's Cantina on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Subscribe to the Cantina Chatter podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Victoria's Cantina. Until next time, bye-bye.